This is how to teach social studies, the do you buy that debate. So let's get some background. One essential goal of social studies is for students to be able to evaluate the quality of arguments. Students will face a bevy of terrible arguments in the real world. Without practice, they may not be able to recognize or debunk bad arguments. The following teaching mechanic helps students do that by making them actually do the skill with you and their peers. So here's the do you buy that mechanic. First, you need to find a legitimate historical debate. By legitimate, I mean professional historians are currently debating this today. Do not try to present an argument where the only discussion is professional consensus versus quackery. A good source is the historiography sections often found at the end of advanced placement books. These are fantastic. Second, you want to scaffold if this is the first time introducing the mechanic. So what do we mean by scaffolding? Present obviously good and obviously bad arguments to your students about simple things they can easily relate to. And these don't have to do anything with the actual content you're trying to teach. This is just easy stuff they're trying to relate to, or they can relate to. For example, you're going to ask them, how good of an argument was that and why, to the following. This candy costs $1 million a piece and tastes awful, thus you should buy it. Does this argument hold water? Why or why not? Do you agree with this? Do you disagree with this? Do you completely agree, completely disagree, or not, and why? The third thing you're going to do is to break the argument down into three to five major points for each side. Present all of the points for one side before you go to the opposing side, and you're going to stop after each point, but make sure you focus just on one side of the debate before you go to the other one. After you do your best job presenting an individual point, stop and ask your students, but do you buy that? Not at all, some, a lot, or completely, and why? If you want, you can use a continuum. You can say a 0 through 10. 0 means I don't buy that at all. That argument is ridiculous. And a 10 can be, this is the greatest argument ever. I completely buy that. Have your students discuss their opinions with each other and you. So after each point, you're going to go off to the side and have the students discuss their opinions with each other and then with you in front of the class. Make sure to point out flaws in the students' opinions. For example, note when students engage in fallacious logic and provide explanations as to why. As always, give credit for class participation. Give particular credit where one student can note the flaws in another student's thinking. After the oral discussion is over, have the students write short notes on their final opinion of this point. For example, I buy this point somewhat because of X, Y, and Z, but I also think there's some flaws because of A, B, and C. The students will use these notes to write their final assignment, and make sure to tell them that the more notes they're taking, the more they're listening in class, the easier their final assignment's going to be. So here's the writing assignment template you're going to use for the do you buy that mechanic. Number 1, have the students write a summary of what the debate conflict is. For example, historians disagree about the motivations of the Founding Fathers for writing the Constitution. What is that disagreement about? Explain the views of both sides. And that can be something like a paragraph, 5 to 7 sentences. Second, have the students address the strengths and weaknesses of both sides. They should use their notes here. So, when you're saying, let's say the Founding Fathers debate, and we say the Founding Fathers' democratic views, what were the strengths of that position? When historians say the Founding Fathers were truly supporting the ideals of the Revolution, and we say that they had democratic views, what are the strengths of that argument and what are the weaknesses of that argument? So what are the strengths and weaknesses of both sides? That can be between 1 and 2 paragraphs, usually between 7 and 10 sentences. And finally, have the students explain which side they think is right and why. So what are the strengths of this model? First, it gives students direct practice in discerning good and bad arguments and explaining why. Second, it's student-centered. You need only to speak, and the students only need to listen to you for a minute or so at a time. So you're going to present between 3 and 5 points for both sides. So that's a maximum of 10 minutes of you speaking directly, where the students need to sit in their chair and listen. So remember to present a point quickly and then hand the class over. This greatly limits discipline issues because you don't have to constantly tell the students to be quiet because you're the one speaking. And it also has the benefit of creating very minimal lesson plan prep time. You only basically need to be an expert in, 6 to 10 points total. So become an expert in those 6 to 10 points, present them the best you can, and that's all you need to do. Number three is this teaches students how to disagree with each other with civility and respect. I've taught in places where literally students just didn't know how to disagree with each other. It could be about anything. It could be a debate about football, and might lead to a fight because their teachers had never modeled how to simply have a disagreement without yelling at each other or resorting to like ad hominem attacks, saying things like "you suck." So this teaches students how to disagree with civility. And number four, it stresses writing skills.